on items that are not on the agenda. Do we have anyone out there that wishes to take advantage? All right, we'll move on then to the next item. Commissioners' reports.
None by me.
None for me.
None for me. The staff did a really good job on the Earth Day, and I got there just in time for the cleanup. So, but the tree was planted, and it seemed like it was a good thing. I guess you'll have to work on what actually happened at the event, since I got there right at the very end. That's all.
Lots of time to go around. I have no report. We'll move on and item number 5, staff.
Thank you. I just wanted to give you an overview of some of the items for a look ahead on your future agenda. We had scheduled the draft EIR for Curtin Field for your May meeting. That may get pushed out one more meeting, so possibly in June. And that would be just reviewing the draft EIR, providing any questions or comments. The consultant would then respond to those comments in a document that's called Final EIR, which is the draft, and then the response to comments, and then you would have another chance to take a look at the document. And your action would be, at that point, if you're ready, to certify that it's complete. So the draft EIR will either be at your May or June Planning Commission meeting, and then the final, we're looking at the fall for review of that.
Which field you said it was?
The Carton Field, Cartan Field at Menlo College, Menlo School.
Okay.
And then Little League field improvements, they're working right now to put together their packet for your May meeting for consideration. And what we also wanted to do is take it to the Park and Rec Commission before it comes to the Planning Commission, so that you can incorporate any comments that they may have in your review as well.
Would you anticipate doing that before our May meeting?
That's our hope. I don't have the application submitted yet, so I can't tell you if it's complete and if it will be on your May meeting or not. But that's what Little League is targeting at this point. And then we already have a tree removal request just by a private property owner. It does involve several trees, so that also includes a mitigated negative declaration. And then what you have before you is a memo from Neil Martin and some information on the Menlo School transportation management demand measures. They are required to do a traffic count study every year and report those findings back to the Planning Commission. So you have the information in front of you. It's also been distributed to the neighborhood. And we anticipate having that for your review and discussion at your May meeting as well.
It came today.
I think it's just right in front of your dais, I hope. If not, we'll get you another copy.
I got it.
And then
Okay.
if we're not inundated with other items, I'd like to bring the tree ordinance back finally for your review in June. But I think we're going to have to see, how the agenda looks, and if you're going to have time to have a good review and discussion on that. And then for future agenda items, we talked previously about taking another look at the accessory building and second dwelling unit, and that was out of concern with some confusion on the definition of what's a second dwelling unit, what's an accessory building, and maybe taking a look at that. I would also like to talk a little bit about the setback and the separation requirement that's in the code, and that kind of relates to one of the items you have in front of you. But does it make sense to have a setback from the pool to an accessory building? Is that necessary, or do we want to modify that a bit? So I'd like to add that to a kind of combined accessory building, second dwelling unit discussion. And then we're currently working on, I believe we're interviewing a consultant. I don't think we've awarded the contract yet, to have a bike and pedestrian master plan for the town of Atherton. And what I'd like to do is take that master plan and incorporate it into a new, an updated circulation element, as well as updating the general plan. We haven't taken a comprehensive look at the general plan in some time, so I think it'd be good to look at that. There's a few items we need to update, mostly relating to some new stormwater regulations that we need to have some wording in there. But we may want to just kind of go through it section by section at future meetings and take a look at the general plan in a comprehensive manner. And then also the housing element will be coming up as well. But the circulation plan the bike plan will be ahead of that, and then the housing element will probably follow a little bit after.
Excuse me, is the housing element the same thing that we worked on a year or two ago?
Well, there's a schedule where we're required to update it every 10 years, and then it gets adjusted by the state and the local region. So I can't remember the exact day our next update's due, but it's about time we get started on it.
14.
2014, thank you.
14?
Commissioner Lively?
You'll be out of office, and so will I.
You did.
That's all.
Along that line, Lisa, along that line, do we have any idea what the goals for housing element may be yet? Too early for that?
Well, we have the numbers that ABAG has sent down, so we know about how many numbers we need to produce, but we haven't taken a look at, what our production's been. So we can get you kind of some summary information on that, just for your information, if you like.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of Lisa? Or if someone has something that ought to be considered, that's the clarification of ordinances, I think we
Sure.
bring it up too. So that it might get scheduled, or might, well, I think first we'll ask whether the commission wants to hear it. That's why I started a discussion on a particular item. Okay, we'll open our public hearings. First, number 6, is Carriage Tree Removal Permit for 163 Almond Avenue.
Okay, staff report. Thank you. The applicant at this point is requesting removal of one heritage tree. As you recall, this item was previously heard at your March 27th meeting, and at that time, the applicant had requested the removal of 3 heritage trees. The vote on that request was a 2-2, which is essentially no action. And then the applicant has since revised the proposal and is now seeking the removal of 1 tree, and that would be tree number 8, and it's the tree that's located in the middle of the 3 trees that they had requested. So the applicant was able to design their entrance to the site at the same location. Since now just the 1 tree is remaining, is requested for removal, it won't be as large of a visual impact to the site, so it will be more screened than previously requested. They do have a substantial landscape plan that they plan to implement. And our standard requirement for replacement is 2 24-inch box trees or 1 36-inch box tree for the 1 tree removed. All trees on the property have been surveyed, and the arborist report is in your packet. You have reviewed it. The tree they're requesting for removal is a condition rating of 50% and is determined to be in fair condition. Kevin has also taken a visit of the site, reviewed the plan, and he is supportive of the removal request as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is also, I believe, present this evening to discuss their plans for you.
Okay, do we have?
I have one comment. On the tree removal permit, I think there's a typo there. You have number 7 should be 8.
Should be 8, yes, thank you.
Are there any questions for staff? Paul, you're not here, do you have any?
I do not.
Does the applicant wish to make a statement at this point?
Yes, please.
We have, so we'll open the public hearing for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners and staff, for allowing us to speak to you again tonight. As mentioned, we were here a month ago and we described, and I will review very briefly for your benefit. This is a 2.5-acre property on Almond. There are dozens, maybe 70 or so existing trees on the site, mostly redwoods and oaks. And we do have an extensive landscape plan which preserves all of the heritage trees, including a large oak that was recommended for removal by the original arborist report, which the owner has decided to take on their own initiative to try to save and preserve. There are over 20 very large-sized trees proposed in the new plan that are 36-inch box or larger trees, some of them as large as 96-inch box trees. So we are planting a substantial number of large specimen trees, as well as many others that are in the 24-inch box to 36-inch box size. We believe that the impact from the street and for all the neighbors in the area of this one redwood tree leaving, which is in the middle of a very long line of closely planted redwoods, is essentially a solid wall of redwoods right now. Within a very few years, the remaining trees will grow together, and the only thing that will be missing visually will be the trunk of that one tree. It is in a location that's important to us. It is meant to be the main driveway entry, which aligns with the front door of the house, of course. So it is important to the design, but we have heard the commissioner's concerns and are back tonight asking only for that one tree removal at this time. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has.
Do we have any?
I have
Yes, sir.
There are two real smaller redwood trees, not heritage trees, I think adjacent to number 9. I'd like just to know what your plans for those are, to remove them or keep them.
Two small ones adjacent to number 9.
I think that's number 7, adjacent to number 7. On the right hand.
On the right-hand side of the
All of the numbered trees, the ones that were large enough to be numbered, are remaining with the exception of this one that we're asking for. There are the trees on the site that are smaller, that were not numbered and are not part of the survey.
Right.
I'm not sure of the two you're asking about. I know that there's one within that cluster that's quite a bit smaller than the others that we have considered removing. It's growing up underneath another one.
Second question is, what are you gonna do about pruning number 7 and number 9? You gonna open that hole up by more pruning of those two trees?
No more than we need to for clearance. The idea is not to strip the sides of the trees. The only thing we would do would be to lift at the bottom as needed for cars to pass through. But the intention is not to cut a vertical hole all the way to the tops of the trees. It's just to remove the center trees so that the canopy will eventually grow back together.
If we added a condition, the trimming of the trees shall be approved by the town arborist, that'd be satisfactory.
Sure.
Any further questions?
I had one, just as a clarification. I was okay with the 3 trees, so I appreciate the fact that you went back and did some more thought around it. I just wanted to make sure that 1 tree is going to provide enough of a clearance for the foreseeable future of the use of how you intend to use that driveway, because it still is pretty close, so.
Yeah, there's actually, we did do a field measurement. I don't remember if it was 23 or 24 feet trunk to trunk of the remaining trees on either side. So there is a fair amount of space there, and we're not looking to do a 20-foot wide drive. It'll be a fairly narrow 12 to 14-foot standard driveway. We will, when we remove the one tree and its roots, we'll carefully root prune to try to affect the other trees as little as possible. And we do have a list of recommendations from our independent arborist about root feeding and protection during construction and other things to try to make sure that those trees are impacted as little as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? If not, I'll close the public hearing and ask the commissioners for their input and discussion. I'll start out with you, Mary.
Okay, all right. I guess I would like to say that, Herman, last time we talked about this, you made some comments about your concerns about removing these trees. And I went back and I reread the heritage tree rules.
Sure.
And I thought you had a good point that we don't need to remove trees unnecessarily. However, I think that the owner has made some concessions and taking back their permit for, the 2 trees and just asking for 1 tree to be removed. And so in that case, I guess I can be in favor of it.
Okay. Phil?
I'd like to thank the applicant for reconsideration of this particular situation and taking just 1 tree instead of 3. I think that's a great step. Appreciate that very much. I would like to add a final condition, if you don't already have it, that trimming of trees 7 and 9 be approved by the town arborist.
Add that in the motion.
Pardon me?
You could add that in the motion.
Well, it'll just be amended.
Amendment. Yeah, okay.
So you're gonna make a motion?
No.
No, we haven't finished our discussion.
Tree removal permit.
He'll still allow you to say something.
Dictatorship.
I already did.
Yeah. You want to pass that on?
I'm okay with what we have before us.
What you have in front? Paul?
I'm okay with it as well.
Okay. I'm not, it's not fun to say no. I think it's a nice development, and the applicants have considered, what they want to do, and are going to do a fine job in landscaping. However, I think we as commissioners are bound to carry out our ordinances in regard to that. There's no mention in the heritage tree ordinance about the number of trees on site as a mitigating factor. The trees, as I read the zoning ordinance, would be removed on the possibility of failure or dying. And the ordinance itself follows the general plan, which says that trees shall be preserved to the maximum extent feasible while allowing for construction within established parameters for setbacks and lot coverage. And I think there's plenty of room for other locations for driveway, so I would have to vote no in carrying out what I believe to be the terms of the ordinance covering heritage trees. So, do we have someone wishing to make a motion?
I don't move that the planning commission find the proposal removal of the one heritage tree at 163 Almondrell Avenue in Atherton would not be contrary to the purpose and the intent of the general plan, and for these reasons outlined in the staff report, and that the commissioner approve the tree removal with the additional condition, amended condition, as outlined by Commissioner Lively, and the condition stated in the draft heritage tree removal certificate. Is that enough? Okay.
I'll say.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Nay. Motion passes 4-1. And I must say that if you wish to appeal, you have 10 days to, I'm sure you're not, to appeal to the council. You have 10 days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of activity on the site. I went over there the other day and it just looked like a mound of people all over it.
I know, it's very exciting.
Okay, item number 7 is a special structures permit at 12 Cowell Lane.
The applicant is requesting a special structure permit to allow 2 basements, one under a detached accessory building towards the rear, and another under a detached garage that's kind of off to the right side of a new main residence. The previous home, pool, accessory buildings, tennis court have been demolished on the site. You saw from your site inspection, there's still some site prep work going on. And the applicant is proposing to construct a new residence. There would be a partial basement under the new residence. They're also proposing a detached garage, as well as a detached accessory structure to the rear and a new pool. The site is on a corner lot, and there is a flag lot to the rear, so there is a long driveway to the rear of the property that accesses the property at 18 Cowell Lane. The first basement is a little over 1,100 square feet in area and is located under that detached building in the rear of the lot. The intended use for that basement area is only for storage and mechanical space, and the access to it is via a stairway that would just exit out to grade. They are proposing a 4-foot tall wall to shield that stairwell from any view. And again, that's right adjacent to that rear flag lot, so we don't see that that would impact any neighboring properties. The second basement is 963 square feet and is proposed under the detached garage. It would be utilized as a guest suite. The light well is designed as a sunken courtyard that's oriented towards the interior of the lot and would be located approximately 30 feet to the closest side property line. A small portion of the light well isn't fully enclosed by the accessory structure, so they proposed a 3-foot 6-inch wall to enclose that, so to shield any light from that portion of the light well. No heritage trees are proposed for removal. Kevin has conducted a site inspection and expects minimal to no impacts to existing heritage trees. The largest tree would be on the adjacent property, which is a cedar. The owner has indicated that they've spoken to their adjacent neighbors, and to date, planning staff has not received any comments. Staff would be happy to try to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, I'll public hearing and ask the applicant to have something to add.
Good evening, my name's Ken Lindstedt, I'm the architect for the project, and I think Lisa gave a pretty detailed report, so I'm just here to answer questions if you have about the basements.
I have one question. I take it from the renderings in that the basements are fully under the footprint of the
Correct.
structure.
Correct.
Question?
The barrier by the stairway adjacent to the flag lot driveway, is that 3 feet high?
I think we have it as a 4-foot high wall.
4 foot high, okay.
Yeah.
And the other one, which is not covered, is,
Are you talking about at the guest suite under the garage? I
Right.
think we have it 3'6".
What was it again?
3'6".
okay. Are there any other questions of the applicant?
Yeah, our ordinance says that light wells should be facing into the lot and not on the back side of it. What makes you think it's okay to do that for the properties that light well is adjacent to the flag lot driveway?
Well, it felt like, first of all, there's existing very mature screening at that location, and also the flag lot, I think, acts as a buffer to the lot that's one lot over. So there really are no buildings or structures close to where we're proposing this light well. It's really just an access for a stairway to come down.
It still doesn't speak to our ordinance, though. And our ordinance says it's supposed to face inward, period.
When we read through the ordinance and discussed it with staff, it seemed that the intent behind why they were facing inward was for privacy and for screening of light. So we felt like this was a unique circumstance with the flag lot and the mature screening that was in place.
So when I look at it, is there any, I think of a light well as you've got transparent, medium that light is coming through and to a large extent is bringing light in from the outside.
Correct.
It's hard to tell with this, but it looks to me like it's a staircase.
It's a staircase, really. It's just a means of access to get down.
So is it a solid wall, kind of in a door, something like that?
Correct.
There are windows or things in that stair.
At the very bottom of the stair, if you look at the basement plan, you can see there's a high window shown just to bring some light into the storage space.
And we're talking about the basement underneath
Under the gym.
kind of the gym.
The gym.
Okay.
I think with the 4-foot wall and how narrow that light well is, I don't think there would be really much chance of these artificial light finding its way out or creating a privacy issue.
And the purpose, just if I could ask a question, and the purpose of that particular basement is what?
Purely storage and mechanical.
Okay, that's for the pool pump and things like
Correct.
that, right? So
The
there's a
equipment
noise
below.
abatement aspect to it too.
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anyone else?
I've got a question about the open area under the garage, or near the garage. That's being told when this site on Tuesday is to be basically a patio area for the living area under the garage, is that correct?
Correct, a lower courtyard, landscape courtyard.
I guess I'd have some concerns on how that's to be lit, because if that is anywhere uplit, all that trees above. And so I would suggest some kind of a condition be added that lights in that courtyard be downlit only.
I would agree.
It's near to what I usually say anyway.
Shielded it down, but I don't know where shielded, we lost shielded.
Well, he's getting old.
He forgot.
Are there any other comments or questions in regard to the plan? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? If not, I'll close the public hearing and start the discussion with you, Eric, on the left.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me from the standpoint of just the design of it. I don't know what our metric is, our basements per square foot, but this one has to be pretty, I don't know how common it is to have multiple basements, and there's no, you know, as many as you want, I guess, is that the, you know, I didn't see it as a design that I thought was optimum, but I didn't see any reason to not approve it either. So, and I want to make sure that I'm understanding the usage of the space below the garage is just for visitor, is that correct?
It's a guest suite, so it cannot be considered a legal second dwelling unit.
Okay,
So habitation would be limited to 30 days in the year.
okay, all right, that's all I have. I'm not wild about the plan, but I don't see any reason to go out to not approve.
Paul?
Seems to me that there's sort of two things going on, I assume, in our approval. One is sort of the basement issue and one is sort of the light well issue. In terms of the basements, I mean, we've been pretty consistent that if the basement is underneath the structure and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't go outside the footprint of the structure, you know, it's basically almost approved as of right. We've done that as a regular practice. So I agree, I don't remember seeing multiple basements like this before, but, you know, we have generally approved any basement that's been underneath an existing structure, well, underneath the structure above. In terms of the light wells, I think we've also been pretty strict on, you know, backwards facing or having a wall to basically block the light. I think, I'm trying to remember whether the wall blocking the light we've only allowed if it's been like into a side yard. I'm trying to remember, because what I basically want to do is make sure that we're following the sort of precedent that we've done. And I can't remember whether we've allowed any basically backward facing.
We haven't.
light
We
wells.
haven't. And the walls, I think we have approved, wing walls, let me call them. Have certainly been higher than 3, 6, or 4 feet.
6 feet.
6 feet minimum, so this differs in that respect.
Right, so, you know, I would say that in keeping with our precedent, at least in the backward facing wall, once I get voted, that it can't be a light well, unless we want to sort of change our practice and have some restrictions on stuff facing back. In terms of the light well under the garage, I can't hear, I think this is probably facing the side yard as opposed to the, to the rear, and therefore, if we have whatever the wing wall, then it would be in keeping with our prior practice. And there again, I can't remember how high a wall we required in the past.
I think it was 6 feet.
Yeah, 6 feet or greater depending on the architecture.
And so I wait for what people want to do, whether we want to amend either of the backward facing light well with mitigation or the side facing light well with a lower wing wall.
I agree with that.
So, I guess, Mike, I have a question about whether we want to break this into two different,
We will break it into,
okay, all right, so,
I mean, for both,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
okay.
That's good.
Um, Obviously, the back-facing light well isn't consistent with our standards. There isn't anything else to say about that. So I don't have a whole lot else to say.
Do you have any comments on the garage?
No, well, the wall's a little short.
Okay. Well,
I visited the site on Tuesday and looked at both of them, how the sites were staked out. I'm concerned about the rear-facing stair light well. I think that should be facing in as we have in the past. I've already made a comment about the lighting in the patio area underneath the garage, and I think that should be downlit. I think the walls abutting or adjacent to the stairwells, whether they're side facing, when they are side facing, should be 6 feet.
all right, I know the site. My cousin built the house that was there before the demolition. In regard to, I guess it's the gym, I don't think the location of the stair is in keeping with our past practice. It's close to the property line, although it's a flag-line driveway. And I don't think, I would have to vote no on that particular item. In regard to the garage, I think that it's going to have to be 6 feet as your screen instead of 3'6". I believe this is enough to say that it's facing to the inside of the property. So you'd find me voting no on, I guess, the gymnasium basement, and yes on the garage basement. Do we have any further comments?
The only thing I'd say is that now that I know the history prior to my being on the committee about the rear-facing lighting, I could agree with that for sure. And the other option in my mind on the other than the wall on the garage basement would be to pull that staircasing in so that the actual building itself, the way it's laid out, would
They could do that as
Yeah.
part of the light,
Right.
Yes.
yeah. So then the side of the building becomes the light wall, and they don't have to have a taller
Right.
fence. So architecturally, that's the way they want to have the look.
Yeah.
So a clarification, so if this back staircase by the, I guess it's the gym, did not have a window, would that be considered a light wall? Because I think what Chair Christensen talked about was not approving the stairwell. I'm not sure that we've ever talked about where you could put stairwells, but just light.
I believe we have. For basements and the exits, we've always said that they shall be facing inward on the lot.
Like I said, I can't remember.
I don't have the
Staircases.
ordinance, but my recollection, because I voted for one that didn't quite meet the qualifications, and again was in a minority, so I remember that particular item pretty well. I think the idea of the ordinance is that light wells and the stairs coming from them, if there is a light well, are to be facing to the inside of the lot. Now, on a corner lot like this, it's a lot more difficult to do, but I think the well and stairwell on the garage, there's enough room to say that it does face inward, in my mind, with the addition of the proper sized wall there at the end. In regard to the gymnasium one, it's clearly within 20, 30 feet of what normally might be a side property line, but is the rear property line. And admittedly, mitigation occurs by the driveway. But it still is not in keeping with what we've done in the past and my understanding of the ordinance.
So could I just ask for clarification in the ordinance? I don't have it in front of me. Does it talk about light wells, or does it have a more generic?
I believe it's light wells, but I don't recall we've had a situation where a stairwell wasn't also a light well. And the stairwell is obviously required for exiting purposes. The window is required, to have the light and ventilation into the space.
Right.
I think you may want to give the applicant an opportunity if you want to, I guess there's some options. One would be if you're interested in approving the basement under the gymnasium with a 6-foot tall wing wall, or if you're focused on approving it where the stairwell is flipped to the interior portion of the property, then you might want to have a discussion with the applicant to see if that's feasible before you take your action. It's up to the commission, obviously.
Well, I think in regard to the applicant certainly can say what he wishes to say, but I would, certainly my position would be the gymnasium stairwell has to be relocated. It either has to fit somehow in the end or something like that. It's just not facing, no matter what you do, it doesn't face inward on the lot. It's facing outward to the Swicott driveway. But the applicant may have something, as you say.
Yes, thank you. I wondered if the consensus is not to have the stairway on the back side, if we could ask for approval for the basement by flipping it so the stair faces we still would